Hello, and welcome to my game dojo. I am the Game Ninja, and this is my dojo. It is a labor of love that I've collected and put back together from my childhood over decades and decades. Um, I figure I always say that every piece on this wall, on these walls, have a story. And it's true, but I never really sit down and thought out. You see, when we're kids and we get these video game systems and video games, we just enjoy them. We play them, and that's all we have. But it never resonates how deep it goes until we're older. Once we're older and we want to recapture those great moments of our childhood, that's when these things start to come back into play. And that's what used to be the appeal of classic gaming collecting. But since people have jumped into the market, pushed prices up just because they want to resell, and resell, nobody really collects anymore. Everybody just collects so that they can sell. Not me. As a celebrated gamer and collector, I play with all my toys. So today, what we're going to be talking about in 1987-88, over in Japan, a game system came out. We didn't really see it over here until 1989. Didn't really become popular until 1990. I scored mine in the summer of 1992. My parents were separate, and sometimes we went to go stay with my father, and sometimes we stayed with my mother. Um, he bought something so that we could play while we were with him, and that was a Sega Genesis. That's right, a Sega Genesis. Now, I had already had a Super Nintendo. Mom had already bought me a Super Nintendo. Well, us, the kids. And the Super Nintendo was awesome, but it was also nice to see the other side of the fence, that Sega Genesis, because pretty much everybody on my block was a Super Nintendo and Nintendo fanboy, so wasn't really no Sega, besides the Sega Master System that we had way before. Um, so it was nice to see a Sega Genesis, and one of the first games, believe it or not, was Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat, playing it with my father. Now the funny part is, I did research when he said he was getting a Sega Genesis, so that I could study the blood code. That stuff falling off the wall. I'll grab that in a second. So anyway, pull it off my wall of goodies. That's right, mine is still hooked up. Mine works on the TV. Yeah, this bad boy, take the polishing wand out. This bad boy just ain't for show. This bad boy is functional, it works, and it is over 30 years old. Way over. And that would be that Sega Genesis. That's right, Sega Genesis. And this was the original OG John. This wasn't the revision, and this wasn't the Gen 2. This was the original. Um, let's see on the back of it. I don't know if you can see. They still have the Sega help number. They still have the original model number and the original time. And yes, this bad boy is still plugged into my TV because this bad boy still does work. Now, when you got these back in the day, most of them came with Sonic the Hedgehog. Depending on which model you got at what time and what year, it was either Sonic the Hedgehog 1, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I don't believe it ever came with Sonic the Hedgehog 3. But that was always the first. Echo the Dolphin was also another good one on this one. Um, I remember the hours and hours of going over his house and playing this, literally playing this for hours, and destroying him in Mortal Kombat. That was a great joy to destroy your father in combat. No, sometimes, I had to let him win, ego wise. But yeah, it was a simpler time. But this system stuck with me. And I would say, as I grew up, I didn't play it as much. Went from Super Nintendo on to Nintendo 64, and then they came out with PlayStation and Xbox. But this always held a peace of mind. Why? Because Sega had some games that were amazingly graphic, and then Sega had some games where the music was just completely awesome. The Sonic the Hedgehog music to this day can still be recognized off of a few bars and a few tunes. Echo the Dolphin, Mortal Kombat. Now, interesting enough, Mortal Kombat 1, when it came out, Mortal Monday, was available on all these platforms, Game Gear, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, but depending on the version you got with your system, either the finishing moves were different and there was no blood, or you could put the blood code in and get somewhat like the arcade version. Now, between the two, music wise, I chose Super Nintendo. Game wise, I chose Super Nintendo. Fatality wise, I chose Genesis. Genesis, I like the fatalities. Even though the music sounded like they played it on paper cups, oh my god, dude. And like, there was no word fatality, like the screen just turned dark. The music, oh, there was even a time where one of my friends accidentally spilled water on his Mortal Kombat cartridge and Aladdin popped up. Don't ask me how. Like, I saw it. Like, the water got onto it and then boom, yeah, it was literally Aladdin. Like, I don't know if they taped over another cartridge, if that's even possible. Digitally, graphically, I don't know how. But when Aladdin popped up, we were mind boggled. That was like one of the first funny things we've ever heard. Not that I'm spitting on the Sega Genesis version of Mortal Kombat, because I love the Sega and it is great, and I'm not spitting on it in any way. To this day, on my Switch, I still play Sega Genesis and Sega Genesis games. Like most people, when I couldn't find this bad boy, I got an emulator. Emulation is great in a bind, but nothing beats the original. Nothing beats that original system, that feeling of putting a cartridge into here, hitting on that power button, that little, where's it at? That little power button. Nothing replaced that feeling. So I would say probably about, it's 2023 now, so I would say probably about 27 years ago, I came across a garage sale and somebody who was getting rid of systems because their son was going to college, and I was able to come across this and get this for $40. $40. That's right. And by that color there, by the original sticker piece on the back, it's not a revision. It's not the revision. This is the actual one. And for $40, I could not let that go. I gave it to her right then and there. And it came with two controllers, which I don't know if you remember the original Genesis controllers, but they weren't 6-button, they were 3-button. 3-button controllers. The Sega Genesis had 3-button controllers, and the blood code on Mortal Kombat was A, B, A, C, A, B, B. And that was the blood code. Done at the scene where the screen comes down, you see a bunch of words, and it speaks about code. You just did it real quick. A, B, A, C, A, B, B. There you go. Blood code. For those of you who are picking up a new Sega Genesis, because you still can't find these bad boys, you still can get them. Um, even the smell is nostalgic, man. Just, oh, gotta love that Sega Genesis. So today's video is dedicated to the love of the Sega Genesis. Um, One of the few games that I ever played. Actually, let me pick it up because it jumped off the shelf. So, because it jumped off the shelf, we're gonna look at it. Oh, by the way, the other controller that you saw that I had up there is a revision. Now, this is the one I was telling you about. So, when I did emulation on my computer, one of the main things that I liked, my brother Felix got me into emulation heavily. Like, I could not believe he was playing these games that I was trying to find on his computer. And it emulated them very well. Some of them to an amazing point. Changing the code, changing the way things did, like, it made it even better. So I started getting into emulation. But it's no fun playing it on, you know, joystick, mouse, something like that. So I said, if I'm going to get that game, I want the experience to be as real as possible. So I started actually getting controllers, modifying controllers, manufacturing controllers, splicing wires and wiring to make these controllers on my PC work. So I wanted the full experience. I didn't just want to play Genesis. I wanted to play Genesis with a Genesis controller, which, if you notice, that one is a USB. That is not the original port. To compare the two, you see that is the Genesis port controller. That is a USB right there. So you can see they modeled very closely after it. I would say the buttons on the Genesis, you're never going to beat that original feeling and mode for it. But in a bind, this made it feel accurate to me. So let's pick up what fell, because I don't know what fell. By the way, that's my Sega wall, and if you notice that box there, that is my Sega Genesis Mini. Yes, I do have the Mini. I do not clean these things as well as I should, man. Dust. So, I will show you before I grab the game. This is the mini version of it. This came out a few years ago, and yeah, so cute. And you can see this is USB too, so that controller will work on this too as well. But yeah, so what is in this is a Raspberry Pi cart, and they gave us, I don't believe I know how many games. How many games does it say? 30 games. The box is back there, sorry. Gave us 30 games. 30 games! But why not have them all? Because there's space on the cart for all of it. So I, you know, may have talked to somebody who knows somebody who is somebody who maybe becomes somebody who gave me all the games on a Genesis. So now all the games, because I collected my favorite. When I got this original Genesis, I wanted to start collecting my favorite games, the ones that I played. Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Mortal Kombat 1, Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3, Royal Rumble, Echo the Dolphin, oh, NBA Jam, and Cool Spot too. How could I ever forget Cool Spot? That 7-Up game, oh my god, gave me so many hours of goodness. One of the first Sega Genesis games I ever beat besides Mortal Kombat and Sonic. But this little baby, if you see both of them together, it is a exact replica of the granddaddy, the big one. Yeah, it's the exact replica. So when this came out, of course I had to get it because I had to see how it stacked up to the original. And believe it or not, it's damn close. Spot on. Damn close. I enjoyed playing this as well. I have all the minis, but this one, with all the games in it now, it is Game Dojo approved. Pop that up in there. That is my little mini tower power. I have an Atari 2600, Xbox One, the mini there, my Switch over here. Don't worry about that. Well, if you want to see, yeah, that's where my Switch is. Next to my gigantic TV, which is a Switch, 65-inch Switch. But that's beside the point. We are talking about this baby right here. So now let's see what fell. What jumped off the shelf? because I'm excited to know what was so excited they had to jump off the shelf. Oh yeah, Sonic 1. That's the one I was talking about. Now, a lot of people got the ones that you could buy in stores. There's nothing wrong with that. But this one right here, the not for resale one, this is the one that came with the game system. This one was the day one. And, oh, that sound. Still has the book, the original book, and the original cartridge. Now, if you notice that little grid pattern down the side, a little black grid pattern down the side. Most Sega Genesis boxes came with either the black grid pattern or the red. Let's take the book out for a second. Back in the day, oh, by the way, all my new gen people, back in the day, games came with a box, the game, and an actual manual. The manual was to, you know, familiarize yourself, you know, with the hardware. See, like the Genesis, they tell you where it goes, what it goes, explains the controllers, how to use the controllers, you know, black and white pictures, you know, spared no expense. The newer ones were in color, but it also gave you a run through of the game. And these things are invaluable. And a Castle of Illusion on the back, another great game, that Mickey Mouse Castle of Illusion. This game right here was probably responsible for, I would say, probably 1,500 hours per year for kids. Sonic was what Mario was to Nintendo. The legacy, the franchise, the face of their brand. And the music, the gameplay, and the fun factor. Oh my god, to this day, I still play this Sonic game. Now, I am a fan favorite of 2 as opposed to 1, because 2, they develop more modules and the ability of what Sonic can do with the spinning and the spin dash, and it has Tails. I hated Tails, don't get me wrong, no disrespect to Tails. I know a lot of people out there love Tails. I love him too, but he got me killed so many times in Sonic 2. Just the simple fact that if you had a second player, in case you didn't know, the second player could control Tails, and you can grab his hands, he can lift you up to places that you couldn't make, and he can fly. But a lot of times Tails was always, if you're playing one player, was jumping in on a screen and messing things up. Sometimes he jumped on those little things that go across the water, so he took it, and then you was just assed out, and you had to go in the water and die. Like, it wasn't a well symbiote relationship, but it was absolutely wonderful. This is one of the games that I have on my wall. Let's see if I can show you up there. So you see the Sega Genesis, and then you see the Sonic 2, Sonic 3 right there. Let's see if I can't, hold on one second. There we go. Let's see if I can't lift you up there. There we go. So you see Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3. Then you have NBA Jam, Jurassic Park, Tasmania, Cool Spot, Bulls versus the Blazers, and the NBA playoffs. And who could forget Royal Rumble? And that's the mini. So, like I said, when I started collecting, I wanted just my favorites. I wanted the ones that I played all the time on Sega Genesis. I didn't get Echo the Dolphin because around the time I was going to get Echo Dolphin and found a copy of it with a box, they came out with the mini. So I decided to go with the mini and get it. And though I will still be on the lookout, and maybe I'll come across a boxed version of Echo the Dolphin, I have it to play on the Genesis. And my next video is going to contain both the console version. Let me put it up here for a second. So the next video you're going to see is going to have the console version, as well as the mini version, as well as the emulated version. And you're going to see the differences. Oops, excuse me. You're going to see the differences between all three. So this was our throwback for Thursday, and we're celebrating the Sega Genesis on this Throwback Thursday. And the funny part is, I can still plug this in 27 to 37 years later, and this bad boy will still play like nothing, and you gonna see it. I got it hooked up to my TV. Oh man. So we gonna hook it back up. Of course we gonna hook this back up, and you're gonna see a video of all three. Now I might put all three side by side in a comparison screen, but you're really gonna get to see them one-on-one, up close and personal. So this is the Sega Genesis. I am the Game Ninja, and this is just what I do for you and for the love of gaming. We play with our toys. We don't collect them and sell them to the highest bidder. We enjoy them. They are our childhood. They used to be our childhood friends, and they still are. I am the Game Ninja, live from the Game Dojo. I'll see you in 2 with the goodies.